Hey guys, we're Tim and Katie.
Today we're installing these Vanspeed capsules into our extended length Ford Transit van. We'll show you how we did it. After much research, we chose the capsules because they add the most width to the Ford Transit, so they add an extra 6 inches, going from 77 to 83 inches interior dimensions total. We like the contour of the capsule compared to other options, and we like that it comes with the bunk window already cut out, so you just install that CRL half slider bunk window. The cost of the capsules was $1,800 US, and then we chose to purchase the CRL bunk windows separately here in Canada. As you can see, it comes with the passenger side, driver side capsules, and 3 tubes of the auto glass urethane adhesive. We've chosen to do factory match paint to our avalanche grade Transit, so I've arranged to go to a paint shop in town and get them professionally done. If you want to do it yourself for the paint, it's normally best to go with Raptor liner, and I recently learned that you can get that paint matched. Just ends up with a little bit of a rough finish. Buzz's auto body. It's awesome. I like it. That looks sick. Yeah, looks good. Thanks a lot. Yeah, no problem. I was pretty nervous to pick up the capsules, but I'm really happy with how they turned out. They said you're not supposed to stack them because the paint is still somewhat fresh. So I'm just gonna go straight home. It's like 10 minutes, and I put a couple layers in between. This shop, Buzz's Auto Buddy, charged $5.21 Canadian for both capsules, so I'm pretty happy with that price. Give us a little tour of the capsules.
I didn't think I was going to be on camera.
Oh, you look great.
I haven't even changed into my pajamas.
Oh! This larger capsule will go on the driver's side because there's no slider door there, and it will add 3¼ inches. And then this smaller one goes on the passenger side. It supposedly adds 1¾ inches. And we're quite excited to test these out because really the only other option on the market right now adds 3 inches in total to the width of the Transit. But also, just want to show you a close-up of the finish on these puppies. So I've just kind of set up my workspace here. I've got the passenger side capsule here and a dedicated little table and a blanket. Obviously we're going to have it finished paint side down like this. I'm going to be really careful not to scratch anything. This is our edge that we'll clean up where we'll be applying the urethane adhesive. Over here, we've got kind of all our tools and everything, and I'll go through everything that you'll need to install these capsules. One really important thing, when you're cutting the passenger side, you do not want the slider door to be open. By chance your jigsaw blade could go through your window. So what I'm going to do, just put a little bit of tape on each side of the door in and out, just to remind me not to open it. So I'm just going to do a pre-measurement of the width. At the front area of the bed is 77 inches. Three, and then window to window. Oh, sorry. 80. And then at the rear portion of the bed is 75.5, and then back of the capsule. Good. So keep in mind that's without any framing or anything. I think on our last van, the widest we had the bed was 75.5 inches. That was with our wooden bump outs. Here are the things you'll need for installing the capsules. You'll need a grinder with a grinding blade or a file, 2 20-grit sandpaper, a drill, and a 1/4 inch bit to install the included hardware, 6 bolts and nuts. You'll need some gloves for working with the urethane adhesive, a step bit, tape, Rust-Oleum, and a sponge or something to apply it, a jigsaw or an air saw, and then fine metal cutting blades for it, an adhesive gun. This urethane adhesive is really thick, so it's really helpful to have a powered gun like this. And then obviously more tape, and hearing protection, glasses. So you want a dry eraser or a highlighter so you can mark a line on the side of the van. Lastly, you'll need some mineral spirits and automotive windshield primer. We want to do another test fit before we cut any holes. While we have it up here, we'll mark a line at the front with a dry erase or a highlighter so we know exactly where the front of the capsule is. As you may have noticed, our van is partially built, so ideally when you're installing capsules or flares, something like it, you would do this at the beginning stage before you have the floor down. So we protected the floor with cardboard, covered the whole thing, and then I'm also going to add some plastic here just to protect from metal shavings. So this is the panel that we're going to cut out. We just follow the factory indent here, all along here, and outer edge there. I'm going to use a jigsaw with a metal blade for this job, but you can use an air saw if you have a strong enough compressor. Air saw might be a little bit easier because particularly in these corners, you can see there's, your jigsaw will rub against this. So the other option is you can drill or tap this out with an awl and then follow the line on the outside, make it easier. So anywhere we have these support pieces, we want to take a piece of wood or a meter stick and just draw a line across to follow with our jigsaw. Now we use our step bit to drill a hole for the jigsaw. I also put some tape on the outside of the panel, which made it much easier to cut and remove myself without worrying about it falling out and scratching the van. Next, we filed down any rough edges and tried to vacuum out as many of the metal shavings as we could. Using a little magnet like this is a great way to get all the little shavings out. I hardly got any with the shop vac. Started using this and got tons. Now I move the plastic to the other side of the van and go ahead and apply 2 coats of Rust-Oleum to protect the metal from any rust. Then we use Scotch-Brite pads to scuff up the outside of the van that the capsule will adhere to. So I'm going to use the mineral spirits to now clean off where I just sanded. So now I'm going to go ahead and sand all the edges of the capsule, keeping in mind the inner edge is where we're going to put the adhesive. Again, 220 grit sandpaper or like a Scotch pad. I'm just wiping those down with a microfiber rig. And then going again with mineral spirits. Vanspeed has said that the urethane adhesive is primerless, so you don't need to use primer. I'm going to do it just to be safe. I'm going to apply it to the capsule and then as well on the outside of the window. Just going to put a couple pieces of tape coming out from the top so we can tape it, and then we'll also clamp it from the inside straight away. It's really important when you're doing the adhesive to cut a good V-notch in your nozzle here. I'll try and show you what I mean by that. If you can see that, so I really try to cut it like a V so it'll be thick and then thin at the top, and I'll go along like that. And you do have to open this little tab on the bottom of these. In hindsight, I would put the urethane adhesive slightly closer to the outside edge of the capsule so it doesn't squish to the inside of the van so much. I would also cut the V-notch slightly smaller so it's not so high, but better too much than not enough. This would be a bit easier with 2 people, but it's definitely doable by yourself. Once I had the capsule in the right place, I tap around all the edges to make sure the urethane adhesive gets a good bond with the side of the van. Capsule's on. While I drill in the bolts, while I drill in the holes for the bolts, I'm just going to use these clamps to hold it in place. Now we can go ahead and grab our drill with our 1/4-inch bit and our 3 bolts. So I'm going to put one on each side of the top and one at the bottom, just to be safe. I'm going to use a little 1/4-inch piece of wood behind it, so I know I don't go through. I just tightened it enough that more of the adhesive started to squish out, and then I'll go along after and make sure it's all smooth. Basically that screw goes through 2 layers of van metal and then through the fiberglass of the capsule, and then you bolt it. There you have it, 1 capsule in. I think it looks pretty good. I'll let you be the judge. There's a little bit of a gap at the front. Obviously that's still waterproof. I really like the shape of it there. And now that we have those screws in, we can take these off. Freshly installed capsule. Let's just give you all the angles here. Just wanted to mention one thing as I'm doing the driver's side here. I've done my cutout, but look how much extra space there is in the capsule. Okay, and the end mounting point, I will say, is probably this big. But that's still, what, another 6 inches or so that you're losing out. And this is an extended transit. You know, we're losing out on that likely because of this support right here. I didn't check in the BEMM, but you could maybe cut closer to that. Body equipment mounting manual. Could check that for yourself. Ironically for us, this actually works better because our layout, the bed ends literally right here anyways. This is a little bit bigger than the bed was in our previous van, so should work out really well. But, you know, if you're going for a full 60-inch wide, 65-inch wide bed, might not be ideal for you. And I mean, it's a little bit sad that you lose a bit of the capsule, but personally I like the geometry, how it comes out like that and then goes straight rather than more abrupt kind of wall or bubble there. Something to think about. All right, here's what the driver's side looks like. A little bit tight. There you go. I think it turned out nice. Overall, I'm really impressed with them. I like the lines on them. I think that looks good. Yeah, it worked out perfect. They kind of are, you could just see the adhesive squishing out to the inside. And so we just took a stick and smoothed it out. So that'll be an extra waterproof seal on the inside. But, you know, the only thing you don't want is the adhesive squishing out the outside. And then these bolts are cool. I like that. So there's no concern about letting it dry for 36 hours. I mean, you don't want to let it dry, but before you do like a waterproof test. But in terms of driving, you could do so right now. And for me, I'm going to go ahead and mount the windows. So I purchased these CRL 1033 half slider bunk windows separately. They come as a left and a right. Just want to do a little preparation before I mount it. You can see this one comes with 3 screws already inserted. So the key is that this trim ring, the gap should be at the bottom. That's how you know if it's up or down. You pull the tab and open or close it like this. But one trick that's worked well for me in the past is to pre-drill all these holes before I mount it. So I'm going to go ahead and do that with the self-trapping screws that come with it. So this window has a gasket around the outside, so you don't need to add any extra butyl tape. And then you can see it has this kind of notch in the outer rim, and that's where the screws go in. So this right sits roughly something like that, clamps it in place and squishes that little gasket on the bottom. Then you can push it. It's not like a perfect fit, so you have to decide where center is, okay? So while Katie held it from the outside, I used the drill to start the screws. I should clarify, I didn't actually tighten them with the drill. I went back with a screwdriver after. You can see here, I've tightened it enough that if you look really closely, you can see the gasket is kind of squishing out a little bit. There she is. Let's get rid of this. Oh no. Oh man. 0 for 2. There's just a tiny gap all around, which made it a little bit tricky to get it centered, but obviously fits really well. Pretty and smart. Okay, so here on the inside, yeah, again, they fit nicely. You can see how far the window sticks in, so it'll definitely allow some more insulation. And then you still gain, for sure, a few inches here. And maybe, what's that? An inch or 2, inch and a half on this side. I'm just looking at the driver's side capsule now, trying to figure out how I'm going to frame my box around this. One thing to note, at least on my version, there's a little bit extra capsule on the inside. See how it sticks up past the middle of the van? I mean, it's fine here because my bed's higher than that. Top of the bed, I believe, is around 34 inches, 33 and a half. So that's fine, but over here, it gets in the way and there's quite a bit extra here. So what I'm planning to do is trim this with just a multi-tool, and then maybe similar at the top, just to get rid of that little bit extra. Obviously it's, the seal is away from that. This is just excess. I double checked with the guys at Vanspeed and they said you're all good to cut the fiberglass. I was wondering if maybe you know, it creates like a entry point for moisture or something into the capsule, but they said don't worry about that, just get a clean cut. Okay, so here's the bottom part that I trimmed. I found on the top here, if I used a small scroll saw blade on the jigsaw, it's not long enough that it would touch the capsule, but it also cuts the fiberglass really nicely. Yes, door can open. And this is going to be the $1 million question, right? And that's a fair bit of room. I think you could have another 2 inches or so on this side. It is around 82, 83 inches now. We'll say 83 to the bottom, to the widest portion, and then more like 82 to the window. I guess you start to wonder, how wide do you really need it? Because the Transit is wider than the Sprinter to begin with, and then you add 5 inches, 5 to 6 inches like this, you start to get pretty wide, 82, 83 inches. All right, we have waited almost 48 hours and we're ready to do a water leak test. I think you're supposed to wait a minimum of 36 hours, so we're good there. Unfortunately, it is winter here in British Columbia, and we got quite a bit of snow on the ground, but it's quite warm. It's above freezing today, so I think it's a good chance to test it out.
While the rest of the neighborhood has their snow blowers out and are doing their driveways and everything, we are hosing down the van. Please don't let there be any leaks.
We were stoked that it passed the leak test, so next I took some B-roll of the finished capsules so you could see the lines and contours and the general fit and finish.
This is the final van, so just wanted to show you how we framed the bump outs. As you can see, we maximized as much space as we could by creating an angle at the back that would go in line with the capsule itself. So these are made out of Baltic birch. We have 1/4 inch and 1/2 inch around the outside. We also use trim lock around the half slider bunk windows to finish off the look. This bed is 80 inches long and 56 inches wide, so full length queen fits in the van. On the passenger side, you can see that we used the bump outs for our overhead lights, a plug, LED switch for the bump outs, our heated floor, and then there's the vent for the AC. So lots of use in this small area. Another reason we really like the capsule is because it still allows us to have the Havelock wool insulation between the framing of the bump out and the capsule itself.
Overall, we're really happy how the build turned out using the capsules, and we definitely plan to use the capsules again on our next van.
Thanks so much for watching this video. We hope you find it helpful. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below.
See you next time.